In this presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about measuring productivity and impact of simulation centers. And I think that's important because maybe more so than sort of other types of education, there's a need to kind of justify, or maybe you don't think this, but certainly in my experience, there's a need to justify the spend, the cost, and why simulation is necessary still. I think that needs to happen. So simulation is costly. How do we justify the initial costs of setting up the center and the ongoing costs for running the center? And maybe there is still a belief among the naive that once you've made that capital investment, you're free. You don't need to spend any more money. So we need to justify this expensive type of training, I think, still. So you could justify it by the number of hours of training or the number of students trained at the kind of simplest measure, but maybe that doesn't capture it all for simulation. So there's the time it takes to set up and break down the equipment. What about the time it takes to develop new scenarios? That's very time consuming. What about the time required to train staff? What about the time required to train actors? All of this isn't really captured by just the hours of training or number of students. It doesn't perhaps get at the full picture. So maybe there's other metrics, and these are metrics that you may already be capturing yourself to show the impact that you're having. So maybe you look at outreach to other areas. Maybe you're running courses in remote sites. Maybe look at some of the interprofessional simulation you do and show that this is happening. Looking at simulation you do for other organizations, or new programs that are being developed, grants that you're being awarded, research outputs. All of this might help to capture some more about what's doing and what's happening beyond the number of students being trained. And then if you think back to course 2, we talked about Kirkpatrick's learning hierarchy. I mean, maybe we need to capture some of this information as well. So do the students like the training? I mean, this is fairly routine, but maybe there needs to be more. Maybe we need to look at knowledge or changes in attitude as a result of the training, or changes in behavior as a result of the training. Maybe this is more information that can be captured to show that the training is having an impact. And then of course the big hard one there, the organizational level impact. Has there been changes at the level of the organization as a result of the training? But this information is useful. It helps shows that what you're doing it matters and is having a real impact. This is another idea that I got from the UK. So they do a lot of evaluating the performance of university lecturers, and it used to be it was just publications, but now they want to show, rightly so I think too, that it's not just your work isn't just being published in journals, but it's actually having an impact sort of on society. And they're training them, and they're writing these impact statements about what they're doing. And maybe you can do this as well, where here look at this impact. We trained X numbers of people, and look at the impact that this has had, and sort of present it as a case study. I think that's quite useful for demonstrating what you're doing. And you're probably quite good at this, like I say, so you kind of have to do that in your fit reps in the Navy. But perhaps you could do the same for simulation centers in showing like sort of an impact of what's happening in a kind of case study way, not just through papers and through research, but through, yes, you know, you've really changed something. Now, I'm not really suggesting that you do this, but I just include this as an example of possibly how you could calculate the return on investment of training like simulation training. This comes from a paper by Taylor, who was looking at the return on investment of CRM training in aviation maintenance, and I think it could be applied to simulation as well. So it's a simple enough equation. So you have the benefits of the CRM, and this is really the cost of developing the training, and you take that from the the financial calculable savings, such as reduction in accidents, or he reduction in damage to aircraft. Now I appreciate this. This is going to be the tricky bit, where maybe you can't really say, okay, this is what we've saved, but maybe you can be slightly innovative about this. And he also includes this kind of fudge factor, this causal operator. This is where you're not attributing all of the reduction to CRM training or your simulation training, but you're kind of giving it, you're weighing it, you're giving it some credit. And on the next slide, I'll give you a worked example, and that will make more sense. So here's Taylor's example. So they're introducing CRM training for maintainers, and the cost of delivering that to 1,600 employees, he said, was basically $250,000. And they did a survey that showed a significant improvement in attitudes, and in the 2 years following the training there was a decrease in lost time injuries of 80%. So that's great. So what they found was a correlation of minus 0.24 between lost time injuries and attitudes towards the training in the post-training survey. So his fudge factor here is 0.24 squared, which is 0.05. So the square of a correlation coefficient is equal to the proportion of the variance in one of the two measures explained by the other, and this is the coefficient of determination. And what Taylor is saying is this provides a conservative, quantitative estimate of credit to be allocated to organizational effectiveness interventions. So you're not saying this is all, you can't say all of this reduction in lost time injury is due to just the CRM training, because there's other stuff happening too. But this is a way of sort of, giving some credits but not taking all the credits. So it's a conservative estimate. So he then goes on to estimate the cost of an injury. So a reduction of 80% on 91 incidents per year is a saving of almost $1.5 million. So great. So you take those numbers, you plug it into the equation, and what you find is that there's the training pays for itself plus an additional 24% return in 2 years. And that's with a conservative estimate of 5.8% lost time and injuries benefit as accounted for by the training. So can you do this with simulation? Well, yeah, maybe. I mean, I appreciate it's going to be tricky. I mean, the tricky bit is going to be how can you measure the savings in terms of money. But maybe there's a way of doing that in a hospital. Maybe there's a way of looking at, I don't know, reduced infection rates, or maybe there might be a way of coming up with a metric to allow you to do this. And I think if you can, it can be quite powerful, especially for the people that provide you with the funding. So to conclude, I mean, simulation, this is different from classroom-based training, and so I don't think you can justify the time and resources in the same way as you would with classroom-based training. So yeah, we need to educate the senior management on what simulation is and why it is necessary and what it does and what it can do for your organization, and maybe providing some cost-benefit analysis would help do this. So thank you.